Hello, welcome to my first at-home Pilates class. If there's anybody who hasn't been to my classes before, has been roped in by the rest of the family because you're all bored, I'm Sharon. If you haven't done this class before, take it steady. I'll explain all the moves and I'll give options. Those of you who've done it before, it's all moves that you've done before, so there's no surprises, and I'll keep it nice and straightforward so you can pick it up, practice it, put it down. Maybe just do the warm-up if you get up in the morning all a bit stiff or feeling a bit stressed, just do the warm-up bit if you fancy. Or just the chest opener. I know some of you'll just do the chest opener, that's fine. So we're going to start lying down. First thing, so because it's you in your own home, just check around you that you're not going to take any ornaments or any light fittings out when you move your arms about, because at the end we will be standing up. So just check your space. Have a mat if you're lying on a hard floor. If you're on the carpet, you might be alright without a mat. It depends how you're feeling. Put the pets away. Benny's down in the office out the way because he'll join in otherwise, and they will come and join in with you, which is distracting. You might want a cushion for part of it, so if you want to grab a cushion, now you can. Right, and we'll get going. So you're going to start lying down on your mat. Get yourself comfortable. If you're feeling a bit stressed at the moment, you might find your shoulders are a bit tight or your lower back, so you might want to start with your knees bent to start with. Relax the shoulders and breathe. Just let your body relax. Feel your rib cage expand and contract. Now, because you're all in your living room, I can't see you obviously, so be sensible with what level you do at the work, and try not to watch me all the time, especially if you've got the TV or something on where your neck's out of position. So you might do more listening than watching, which is fine. And then when you're ready, you're just going to turn your head from side to side, feeling that nice bit of pressure on the neck. Sorry, on the back of the head, that nice little massage. Moving your head from side to side. Check your face, that you're not frowning or clenching your teeth. Check your shoulders, they might need to ease down a little way. Still feel the rib cage gently expanding and contracting as you breathe. And when this move starts to feel a little bit easier, you might want to hold your head to one side for a few seconds. Just enjoy that stretch down the side of the neck. Don't keep forcing, should feel comfortable. Hold a lot of tension in the neck. So there you go. And just one more. And then bring your head back to centre. Now we're going to do the arm circles. Again, especially because you're in your living room, I don't want you to break any ornaments. And start with the arm bent. So whichever arm you fancy, just bend the elbow. You can rest your hand on your shoulder if you want. And you're just going to stir around inside that shoulder joint a few times. Just mobilising into the shoulder. If that feels okay and you've got the space, you can then just circle the arm with the arm straighter. It doesn't have to be completely straight, but try and keep the rib cage down so you're not forcing the arm back. Relaxing the neck. I thought today was a good day to have another go because the weather's changed a bit, so you might be spending a bit more time indoors. Now the weather seems to have broken. Yet. And then move over to on the other arm when you're ready. So bend arm to start with, just circling around. It's easier to start with your arm bent because the arm's going to feel lighter. So if that shoulder's a bit tight, it just gives it time to warm up. And then again, if you want to, depending on your shoulder and the space you've got, you can circle the full arm if you want. Do both directions if you fancy. And then you've got the choice of doing both arms together. Both arms moving back. Again, try not to lift the rib cage as you circle the arms back. You might find though that you're comfortable with your legs straight. See how your back feels. But when those arms go back, just squeeze the ribs down a little bit. Squeeze down. Just starting to let the spine lengthen and the abdominals lengthen a little bit. I didn't dream I'd come back from your holiday to this state of affairs, I don't know. Hope you're all safe, keeping well. Good. One more of these. Good. And then we're just going to work into the shoulders. So you can put your hands underneath your head if you want to. If that doesn't suit your shoulders, just arms out to the side, palms facing up, just lying still, or just give these chest muscles time to stretch. Otherwise, hands underneath the head, and you're going to bring the elbows in and out. Just feeling the shoulder blades starting to squeeze together as your elbows go down towards the mat. So you're not forcing that rib cage up, just feeling that nice stretch. If you have got any issues with your shoulders, you can always just do one at a time if you prefer. No problem. So this little warm-up routine, it's good to do first thing in the morning because it just mobilises everything. So if you wake up and everything's a little bit achy and tight, then it just gives you 15 minutes of mobilising. So you can always just stick to this bit if you fancy. That's it. And then again, when this feels easier, you can take your elbows out and stay there and breathe a bit deeper. Really expand the chest. Good ones for those of you who tend to get a little bit tight across the shoulders or a little bit around shoulders, or if you're doing the 47th jigsaw already this week, you might feel a bit tight. Good. Alright, and then we're going to go into our supine twist, so you're going to bend the knees. You can keep your hands underneath your head if you want to. It's more difficult to stabilise the shoulders, so the other option I'm going to do is arms out to the side. Knees can be together, or you can put that cushion between your knees if you want, just to support the hip a bit more. And then when you're ready, you can take your knees over to one side, keeping the opposite shoulder down on the floor, and you can turn your head and look in that direction if you want to. Back to centre when you're ready, and over to the other side. You might find this feels a bit tight at the moment at first, so don't hold it for long. Just go in. You can go a lot quicker if you want to at first, just to start to loosen, and then slow down as the move starts to feel a little bit easier. Try and stack your feet so you're not twisting your ankles, and you can just let the top knee lift a little bit. If it feels uncomfortable on the inside of the hip, just let the top knee lift slightly as you go over. If it feels okay, stay there for a bit longer and breathe. Don't forget, if I forget to tell you to breathe, that doesn't mean you don't breathe. And if you've got the space and you want to develop that stretch a bit further, you can straighten the top leg, push out through the foot. Turn your head again, it's just mobilising through that body. An alternative, if you haven't got the space or you don't like this option, as long as you haven't got any replacement work in the hip, is to just cross one leg over the other. Again, let your feet just rock from side to side. Otherwise we forget the feet and then we get a twisted ankle out of it. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the lower back. So bring your arms down by your sides. If you're comfortable with your feet off the floor, then just bring them up and you're going to rock the hips backwards and forwards. Not a big move, so just having the hands at the back of the knees or the front of the knees, just so the legs don't go too far away, and arch the back out of your comfort position. You can do this with your feet on the floor, tilting the pelvis. The only thing I'd be careful of at the moment, if you've been doing a lot of sitting, is that tilt back might aggravate any sciatica. So if you do feel any pinching or tingling as you tilt back, then just stay with the neutral and forward. Some unusual circumstances we find ourselves in, so you might have to just bring your work down a level. It's just good just to move. Good. Obviously when we meet up again, you know, you can tell me the 4-minute planks you were holding and the side planks you were doing on a 3-hourly basis, and I'll believe you. Good. Just rocking. You can bring the legs together and rock around and massage the spine. Just check your neck. Sometimes if you are tight in the hamstrings, you can force your chin up. So you might even find that you're more comfortable with your head slightly off the floor. You can always put a cushion, remember, under your head. Both directions. Hope you can hear me all right. I did an hour's class the other day and we realised the sound wasn't any good by the end of it. So hopefully it's all right today. Sure you'll let me know if you can't hear me. And then you've got a choice again, if you want to, by separating the knees and circling both legs, alternate, in opposite directions. If you've got any hip replacement, I'd be careful of this move because you might just put too much work through the hip. So if it was me with a hip replacement, I'd just keep the legs together. Just finding all those knots in the lower back and massaging them out. Okay, then I'm going to give you a stretch for the spine. Not appropriate, this one, for osteoporosis or slipped disc, so you just carry on as you are or lie still. The rest of you, if you want to, hands either at the back of the knees or one hand under your head, keeping that gap under your chin if you want to. Pull your belly in, squeeze ribs to hips and curl up. And roll down. Now that elbow, if you've got your hand underneath your head, that elbow needs to stay out. If your elbow comes up, there's a tendency that you're kind of pulling your head up. So you keep your elbow out to the side and you squeeze ribs to hips. Head is cradled on your hand. You can keep both hands underneath your legs. That might help give you a bit of support to come up. But it's not a yank. I want you to enjoy the coming back down to the floor just as much as the going up. So you're straightening the spine out and then curling it up. If the work's coming from the neck, you need to focus on squeezing ribs to hips instead. Enjoy straightening that spine out as you go back to the floor. Just one more. Good. And then put your feet down and have a nice stretch out. Lengthen the body. You can let the rib cage lift slightly now if you want to get into that lower back a bit. Smash it. Okay, we're going to move on into the legs. So the hamstrings are going to be tight at the moment because we're just a lot more still than we normally are. So relax the shoulders, start with your knees bent, and you're going to just straighten your leg along the floor and bend it, and same with the leg. Pull the abdominals in, keep the pelvis as still as you can. So imagine that glass of water. You can get a real glass of water if you want to now. Rest it on your belly, keep it nice and still. I wouldn't really. So what we want to make sure that we are using the leg muscles, and to use the leg muscles we have to keep this centre really tight. And you can stay with this version, stretching out through the leg, very good for the knees. If the hamstrings are tight, it prevents your knee from straightening. Or if you want to, if you're happy with your feet off the floor, you can bring one leg up and kick up, alternating. You might do a slight pelvic tilt, and that's fine as long as you don't feel that you're pushing off the supporting leg. Try not to kick forward though, that's not going to stretch the back of the leg. So it doesn't matter if the leg doesn't straighten, you might end up with your legs still bent, doesn't matter. Some of you have grown up length legs, so you're going to find it more difficult to straighten your legs than I do. If you're happy straightening the leg, or getting as straight as you can, hold it there and start to circle the foot a few times. Check you're not pushing back into your shoulders. Just mobilising through the ankle. Good for your circulation as well, because if we're doing more sitting, then all the blood's going to pool in the lower legs, so this just gets the blood moving around the body a bit better. Stops your ankles going puffy. That's it. You can do just the same. Those of you who are staying with your foot on the floor, you can still circle your ankle down there just as well. Trying to give options here. Now, if you're okay with your foot up, at any point you want to, you can bring both feet up. You can still alternate, kicking up. Or if it feels good for you, you can straighten both legs. Holding on the back of the legs if you want to, or the front of the trousers, or just letting the legs kick up. Holding it for a few seconds and circling your feet, relaxing your shoulders. Good for your back, this. Helps put a little bit of levity back into the day. Just watching your feet move around, especially if you've got your posh socks on. And then just hold onto the back of the legs, or hold onto the calves, or hold onto the toes, and breathe. If you're holding your feet, push your feet into your hands and feel that stretch on the back of the leg. You don't have to straighten them if you don't want to. Just feel that stretch on the back of the legs, pushing your fingers into your hands. No, pushing your toes into your hands. And then bring the legs together and stretch out. Let the body have a good stretch. Pull the air right down into your belly. Arms can be behind you, out to the side, down to your side, it doesn't matter. You can push through your heels, you can push through your toes, you can circle your feet. I just want you to let the body stretch and straighten out a little bit. Then we're going to do some seated work. You're going to sit up either by hands in the small of the back, underneath the small of the back, and pushing up, or if you prefer, I prefer this way, to roll over onto one side and sit up. Let's grab a drink of water while I'm here. I should have told you to get your water ready. Right, so sitting up. As you know, it's a challenge to sit on the floor. So it depends how many you're in your house, you might find your own to sit on the floor. So if you want to sit on your cushion or roll your mat up a couple of times just so you sit a bit higher. Leg position helps as well, so make sure you're on your sitting bones. You can have your knees bent, you can cross your ankles, cross your legs, doesn't matter, however you're comfortable with your legs. As long as you feel that you're lifting up out of those hips rather than sinking back. To start with, just rest your fingers behind you. Try not to put too much pressure on those fingers, just to support you as you sit yourself up straight. Whatever position with the legs suits you. Find that one that's right. That helps support you. Alternatively, you might want the hands behind the legs. Zip up, shoulders back, looking forward. Imagine your chin on your shelf. Breathing. Just letting your spine straighten. If you start to feel a bit crampy in your back, you might be pushing a bit too far. You just want to reach up through your head. When you're ready, one hand behind you, just rest on your fingertips just to support you and turn in that direction. Keep your chin on your shelf. When you've had enough in that direction, come back, squeeze the back of my head, round the other way. Now, you need to sit up nice and straight, otherwise you'll start to drop into this move. Lifting your chest. Chin on your shelf as you go round. Keep your sit bones nice and still underneath you and reach up. Just allowing that mobilisation. And if you find this move is okay, you can do it with your arms folded. You've got to work harder on staying upright because otherwise your body will drop. So imagine sitting against a wall and twisting. Imagine being pulled up to the ceiling. Imagine me coming round and pushing you up, whatever works. Make sure you are twisting rather than leaning. We'll do that in a sec. One more. And then come back. Cool. Relax the shoulders. I'm going to do a bit of side stretching now. So I'll do it side on and then I'll do it front on so you can see what I mean. Make sure you got your sitting bones underneath you. Change your leg position if you want to, whatever suits you. One hand behind you, just to your side, and you're going to reach up and over. Do it this way as well so you can see. So your hand on the floor, you're going to reach up and over. Try not to hunch or drop. Reaching. Hold it for a second or two and then the other way. So as you go this way, this hip stays down on the floor. So you're keeping your sitting bones. So the direction you're going toward, the opposite hip stays down on the floor. So I've got my right hip pressing down as my right arm reaches over. Same on the other side. Left hip presses down as left arm reaches over. Check your neck. Check you aren't sinking back into yourself. Up nice and straight. One more. Cool. And then relax. You might want to change your leg positions. If you're starting to feel a bit achy, or sit on your cushion, or just have a rest. Come up onto your knees for a second and come back when you're ready. Next one we're going to do is the chest stretching. So again, fingers behind you rather than flat of hands to start with, because I want you to push through your arms. And you're going to pull your shoulders back. And relax. I'll do this one with my back to you so I can explain. I need you to squeeze your shoulder blades together for this one. There's a tendency sometimes to push forward with the arms. Squeeze back. Good one for this. Those of you who finally get a bit round shouldered, just puffing your chest out. There's no need to lift. It's not from the neck. You can do a head lift if you want to, but that's not where the work's coming from. It's from the chest. If you find this move is okay, you can go to the flat of your hands. Have your fingers facing forward because there's less tendency to push forward from this position. So you squeeze your shoulders back and you're lifting your rib cage away from your belly. Sliding your shoulders down your back Again, if you want to release the head, if that feels good, then that's fine, but you don't have to. And then relax. So you're squeezing and lifting. And the muscles from the shoulder blades down your spine are working. Squeezing and lifting. If you're feeling it in your wrists, check you're not pushing forward on your hands. Puffing your chest, getting that separation from ribs to belly. One more. That's good. And relax. Let's have a nice stretch through your back. If you tuck your chin in and breathe deep into your back, that will give those muscles a work in the opposite direction. Good. Then we've got the legs. Evil laugh time. Right, now you need to sit up nice and straight for this one. Have the legs straight to start with, see how you feel, and then I'll give you the alternative to bend one leg if you want. Now, right on your sitting bones, hands behind you if you want. Have the leg muscles working, but try not to lock the knee, and you're going to try and lift your foot slightly off the floor. Now, no leaning back, it's too easy. Use the thigh muscles. If your foot can lift a long way, you're probably leaning your shoulders back. So just check it out. If there's a few of you doing it together in your house, you can, no, scrap that, I don't want you arguing, you're all stuck together. Lift your chest, lift the leg. And then if you want to, you can alternate, which is a little bit easier, or you can do some repeaters. So these leg muscles are going to be working, you're going to feel them. Alternative is to bend one leg, hand round the front or back of the leg if you've had any knee work done, and then you're going to lift this leg. The added advantage here is just having that bit of support on the bent leg. Just makes it a little bit easier, but it means you're going to do more repeaters. So it's easier one way, harder the other. Sit up straight. Try and do around about 5 to 8 reps on most of these moves. Good. Feel that, can't you? And then go to your other leg when you're ready. If you're alternating, have a rest, come back. Just check if it suddenly feels like it's gone easy. Why has it gone easy? Because you lean back. It's only a little lean back makes all the difference. So right up, shoulders over hips. It's a good stretch again for the hamstrings at the back of the knee. That feels like we've done enough. So when you've done enough, bend your legs. Again, have a rest. And then we've got leg pull front. Leg pull front, I'll remind you, it's this one. So it comes with some warnings. Anybody with any shoulder issues, I wouldn't do it. You don't want to hurt yourself at the moment. So I wouldn't do it. I would repeat what we've done. You can, remember we've done a bit of twisting. We've done a bit of stretching. We've done a bit of reaching. So I would do those again instead. But otherwise, hands, find your hand position first. Start with your knees bent. Takes a couple of goes sometimes to get the arms right. Draw the shoulders back, lift the chest. Push through your feet and your hands to lift you and straighten your body out. Squeeze your belly, squeeze your bum. Try and lift the front of your body upwards, pushing down in your feet and your hands. Holding it for a few seconds and down. If you've come up in that shape where you're scooped, straighten one leg and use the bent leg and the arms to lift. So push through your foot, push through your arms and straighten your body. Holding it for a few seconds and down, changing legs when you're ready. So you've got the option of both legs bent or one leg straight or both legs straight if you want. It's going to be harder because your upper body's got to do more work because your legs can't do as much. Pulling the shoulders back, lifting that body up, pushing the floor away, holding it for a breath and down. Check that you're not sliding forward because your shoulders will be taking too much work. 5 reps is probably plenty. I don't know how many you've done. You can lie to me, I won't know. I'm going to do one more. Stretch out through that body. It's a good stretch for the body, this one. You can let your head release if it feels good. You don't have to. And do one more. And then down and give yourself a hug. Stretch those shoulders out. Cool. Right, onto the side for some chest open now, just to loosen back up. And lie down. Remember, you've got your cushion if you want to underneath your head. Get your shoulder well down. Have your knees bent, and then lift the rib cage up. Again, particularly important now if you are finding you're doing them all sitting, you're going to start to get tight around these hips. So you've got to support them. So pull that rib cage up, arm out in front. Lift your chest, squeeze the abdominals. And you're going to lift your arm up, make your legs nice and heavy, and reach your arm back. Turn your head if you want to. You haven't got to touch the floor, I just want that stretch through the front of the body. When you've been there for a breath, come back to the ceiling, looking forward, and lower the arm. Watch that you don't drop into this one. This is the one where I quite often come along and tell you to lift your heart, because we tend to get caught up in the arm and forget the rest of the move. So reaching, supporting your head, a little pressure in the legs into the floor to ground you into the mat, so you can enjoy that stretch. Back to the ceiling and down, and keep resetting that chest, resetting the shoulder. You're going to do me 3 more of these. Only 3. Yeah, I kept us in the leg pull front for ages. You're only going to do 3 more of these. Yeah, dear. It's been a week and I'm talking to myself. Reaching out. Yeah. I think there's about 1 more, isn't there? That's it. So you can always stop the recording and do a few more of any of these moves if you want. Then we're going to move on to the hips. So again, pull the rib cage up, have your legs bent in a V shape. Not too close in because it's difficult to lift your legs, so it's finding that V that suits you. Get your shoulders comfy, pull up, and then you're going to lift your top knee. Now, I've got super tight hips, you all know that, I'm always moaning about them. So my knee doesn't go very far, it doesn't matter, I'm still using my bum muscles. What I don't want you to do is drop back in order to get the knee lifted. It's not going to do any, it's not doing anything. So pull the rib cage up, squeeze your bum and lift your knee. If it does feel awkward, try changing your leg, moving your foot further away or closer, finding that V for you. Squeeze. This is lifted, chest is lifted, bum muscles are active. You can always put your hand on the back of that hip and feel those muscles working. Check your feet. Sometimes we press on the toes without noticing, so just relax the foot. Somewhere 5 to 8 reps, depending on how you're feeling. You do want to keep these hips as loose as possible. Keep lifting. Again, we tend to get caught up with what the leg's doing and forget the body, so it kind of drops in on itself. So lift out. Good. Nearly done. Feel it in your bum, all around that hip, starting to work. I'm going to do 1 more for luck. We could do with some at the moment. And then put that leg down, give it a rub. You can get a nice hamstring stretch here if you want to, just by straightening the leg a bit. You can straighten it all the way if that suits you, and bring it a bit closer maybe to feel that stretch, but having this knee down on the floor might be enough. Then we're going to do the leg lifting. So you can keep the bottom leg bent, or straighten it, which will be harder. Stretch out, line your hips up. What I want you to try and avoid here is letting the hip drop down as your foot pings up. So straighten out, pull the rib cage up, and you're going to lift the leg to about hip height. So your ankle and your hip are level. Stretch out through it, hold it for a few seconds and lower. This top arm, you can have it down by your side. You can rest your fingers on the floor just for a bit of stability if you need to. But we're not Jane Fonda. We're not releasing the hip down to ping the leg up. We're using the thigh muscles to lift and hold. If you want to add a cheeky little circle on while you're there, go for it. Keep this tight. Squeeze the belly, squeeze the pelvic floor up. Lift the heart. Keeping that gap as close to level as you can all the time. Resting the leg down when you need to, coming back up, having another go. Squeeze tight. around that waist. You're going to feel it in your leg. When you've had enough, bend it, put it down on the floor. Again, give it a rub, straighten it out if you want. Bring it a bit closer if you want for that nice stretch down the back of the leg. Remember, I can't see you, so I don't want you to feel that you're grimacing and forcing a move. That's not what we're looking for. Look, it'll just mean that you won't do it again, so there's no point, is there? And then sit yourself up, flip yourself round, and do it all over again. So check your space first, don't want to knock any valuable ornaments off the shelf or whatever, so get yourself comfy. Pull the rib cage, arm out in front, try not to drop down, so lift your chest up slightly and raise your arm. Ground your legs into the floor and reach back. Hold it for a few seconds, a breath, don't hold your breath. Come back and down. You might need to reset. You know who you are if I come along and every so often remind you to lift your heart. Grounding through the legs. You can make it all nice and smooth. I'm adding a little bit of a stop just so you can see the positions, but if you want to just make it a nice smooth arc, you can. Keep resetting. Remember, we get caught up with what the moving part of our body is doing, and we forget about the stability. And Pilates is all about the stability. Getting the posture in the best position for your joints. So always thinking about lifting the rib cage, lifting the heart, grounding the legs. Not just caught up in the moving bit. One more. Sorry if I'm not doing an even number, you can always even it up. And more on if you want. Good, and then rest. Then we've got the legs. So it's a V shape. You want your heels about level with your tailbone and your chest lifted as always. But just find that right angle for you where you can feel you can lift your leg without the hip dropping back. So pull the belly in, clench the buttocks and lift the knee. If it feels awkward in your shin, then you might need to change the angle at your knee a bit. Lifting and lowering. Trying to keep the hips stacked. Remember, it's not a drop back just because the knee goes higher. Hand on the bum if you want. Foot nice and relaxed. Keep lifting that heart, it's easy for it to drop. Good. So those bum muscles squeeze and that hip tries to open. Good. We'll do one more. And then we'll stretch that out, just bringing the leg forward. You can put a cushion or a towel under that knee if it doesn't like to be on the floor, if you're on the hard floor like me. Have the leg bent, or you can straighten it out a bit if you want. Always bring it a bit closer if you're finding that stretch on the back of your leg. That's it. And then we've got the legs with the legs straight to do. So get yourself comfy again. Bottom leg can be bent all straight. Straighter is harder because you've got less stability. So see how you feel. I'm going to do mine with a bent leg. Square the hips up. Try and check that line across the hips that you're not dropped down because the leg pings up. Straighten it out. Pull the rib cage up and then lift the leg to about hip height. Hold it there for a few seconds and lower. Trying to keep stable from the hip to the rib. If you prefer, or if you want to add on, lift the leg and circle it. So now you're trying to keep the gap between the rib and the hips the same front and side as the leg circles. Stretch through that foot. It will help you if you stretch through that and stretch through your spine. I feel like I'm doing my Pilates exam now, being monitored. I can't just get up and walk around and watch you lot do it now. Bottom leg is giving you some support, but it's not doing all the work. Shoulders are lifted, chest is lifted, shoulders relaxed. Just drawing it round in a circle. Good. Or up and down if you prefer. When that leg's had enough, bend it. Again, put it down on the floor, give it a rub. Next video will be some side planks, so enjoy today, no side plank. Straighten it out if you want, give it a stretch. Lovely. And then we're back onto our backs, so wherever you go, roll onto your back again. I'll turn around this way in case I don't get my arms caught. So, knee folds to start with. Now remember, on the floor, you've got to not push back into the floor now, you've got to do the work yourself. So start with your knees bent, shoulders relaxed, lengthen the spine, find your neutral spot, so on the back of your head, across your shoulders, on your hips, straight line down your front, and then squeeze to hold this position. We're lying on that water. We've all gone away somewhere nice to get over the trauma, and we're lying in the middle of the pool, feeling that warm water underneath us, giving us a little bit of support, but it's not going to support us if we don't use our core muscles, so lengthen out and balance. Arms are going to give you a bit of help. They're not pushing down, they're just stabilising along the mat. And then when you're ready, tighten the abdominal muscles and lift one foot just off the floor. And down. And the other foot just off the floor. What we're looking for here is, have we switched enough on, enough stability on, that when we lift the foot off the floor, the body stays stable. If we haven't, then we'll drop and we'll feel our body move and we'd fall off that float into the swimming pool. So we're trying to keep our spine long, our pressure point's the same, zipped up, not pushing down on the head or the shoulders as we lift the foot. And you can stay with this is a good move. I know it's difficult sometimes because you feel that you want to do bigger moves, but this is a good move to get the stability, to allow you to use your hip and your legs a little bit and keep that strength in the core. So stay with this if you want. Otherwise, come to knee folds where your leg comes to your 90 degrees. Make sure you bend the knee as well as the hip so you can't really see your toes. Hold it for about 5 seconds. Breathe from your rib cage and lower. Again, trying to not wobble around as you do the same on the other leg. Check the shoulders haven't tensed. Just going from leg to leg. Trying to keep that imaginary glass of water balanced on your belly and you balanced on your float. Now, if this feels like it's the right amount of work, great. Stay here, do about 8 on each leg, thereabouts. If you want level 2, you bring the leg up, and if, like me, you've got a big curve in your back, bringing the second leg up can feel quite difficult. So what you do instead is just bring that knee towards you a bit, and it reduces the curve in your back. Still squeeze the abdominals, and then bring the second leg up, and it needs to look like it's floating. Relax the shoulders, zipped up, lengthen through the spine. Your top of your head is trying to reach the wall behind you. Hold it for 5 seconds. Carefully, feet back, down. So imagine that float underneath you. When you lift your legs, you do not want to fall in that water. Check your shoulders, lengthen your head away and your tailbone away. Breathe in, that rib cage is expanding every time you breathe in. Good. Carefully up and down. So Pilates is about the stability in the torso to allow you to use your joints properly. Check you've bent your knees. Sometimes we end up with the feet up here. Bend the knees, use the hamstrings, stretch the quads out. Good. I'm going to do one more. Good. And then put the feet down and have a stretch. Now you might be feeling a bit achy around the hips. Again, we're going to get tight around these hips if we're indoors. The weather breaks and we're forced to be indoors. You're going to get really tight here. So if you've got a cushion, put that underneath your bum for a few seconds. If you can't be bothered to get one like me, just fold your hands one on top of the other and just straighten out. And that just lifts your hips a little bit. Stretches the hip flexors. Lovely. Then we're going to do our single leg kick. So again, I'm going to break it down and build it up. So you come with me to the level that's right for you today. So relax the shoulders. We're going to come to single knee fold, zipped up, knee over hip, heel level with the knee, and then you're going to raise your opposite arm. So your hand is over your shoulder. Gap between rib and hip is going to stay the same. Abdominals are going to stay squeezed as the leg pushes forward and the arm pulls back. The ribs and hips are still the same distance apart, still got the same curve in your back, still lengthening through the spine. Hold it for a few seconds, back in and down. Same on the other side. Don't wobble, we're still on that float. So we lift, we push, we pull, and we lower. Pressure points underneath you remain exactly the same. Pushing out. If your leg's feeling a little bit heavy, have it higher. If it's feeling not working hard enough, have it lower. Try and avoid forcing the move from your centre. You're not expanding your centre, you're keeping it tight. So you're using your shoulder and your hip joint to move the arm and leg, and the centre is staying strong. You've got any little people, littler than me, in your house, they might come and stand on your belly at this point, or pets might. I did warn you at the beginning, you might find you've suddenly got a cat or dog sat on your belly looking at you, wondering what you're doing. And again, if you want the harder level, come to double knee fold. So one leg up, slight pelvic tilt if you want to, bring the other leg up, and then both arms up. Still the same move, still opposite arm and leg moving out, but this hand and this leg have got to stay still while the other arm and leg travel, so it's harder. Come back in, check the shoulders, squeeze the centre, same on the other side. Again, if your leg's feeling a little bit too heavy, have it higher, make it lighter. So you push out, squeeze in the centre as you push out, and you pull in. It's a tough move, this one. Feel that work from heel to fingertip, squeezing the ribs to the hips, lengthening through the spine. And when you've had enough, have a rest. You want to do a few more, you can. If you have had enough and you want to rest, again, back to that cushion or hand underneath you and stretch out. Relax the shoulders. We're going to do hip lifts next, which is a good one. I always do that one following a lot of leg work because it just stretches everything back out again. So if you have got that cushion, you can put it between your knees if you want to. You don't want anything other than your mat underneath your head now, because when we come up, you can catch your airway, cut your airway off, and we don't want that. Right, so heels nice and level with the back of the knee, shoulders relaxed and down. Find your neutral. Now, first thing you do is clench and release your bum muscles a couple of times, because your bum muscles do not tilt the pelvis. That's the front abdominals that do that tilt. So if you're thinking you're squeezing your bum and your pelvis is tilting, you're using the front abdominals instead. And that's going to catch that sciatic nerve. So find your neutral, straight line down the front, and clench and release your bum muscles a couple of times. And there should be no movement at the front, no reducing the arch in your back, no pushing the arch in your back out. When you're happy you've got it, again, arms down on the floor, they can give you a little bit of help if you want. You clench the bum, you activate the legs and the shoulders to help you lift up. So there's some weight on the feet, some weight on the shoulders. Try not to let your head slide along the floor because you'll bump into the wall behind you. Lift and lower. So you're trying to keep your shoulders and your arms still on the mat. Lift. If you're feeling a bit crampy in the legs, check your feet aren't too far away, because that's more likely to cramp them up. And check that you are squeezing the buttocks rather than tilting back, because that overworks the hamstrings as well. Lift. Now, however many weeks we're here, I'm going to get some reading done. So prepare yourselves. What I might do, if this goes all right, I might start introducing little bits of difference so that when we're all back together, we'll be able to put some new moves in. So prepare yourselves. I won't do anything that's going to hurt us. Lift. Just for a bit of interest, really. Good. And you can hold this then, come up to that bridge. Check your shoulders are comfortable. Check your feet are supporting you. And then float the arms up and back. And up to the ceiling and down. Now I know sometimes, again, if you're prone to sciatica, sometimes as the arms move, you can get a pinch in the lower back. Check that you're not pushing your hips up as you move your arms. So squeeze the belly, squeeze the butt, keep a straight line down the front. Legs are going to be working though. It's going to be stretching these thigh muscles out, squeezing using your bum. Those of you who the ab curl is appropriate, so those of you without any slip discs or osteoporosis can add an ab curl on at the end if you want. So bring your arms up to the ceiling, put your spine back to the floor, squeeze your ribs to your hips as you curl over. And then roll back down, just adds a little bit extra. You might have to reset your shoulders and hips at the end. So up, arms float, bum muscles tight, belly button tight, arm to the ceiling, bum to the floor, squeeze ribs down to hips as we curl over. Don't worry if you don't come up very high on that curl. If like me you're quite arched in the back, it's very difficult to get your shoulders off the floor. So I'm never going to come up further than this. Those of you with a smaller arch in your back are probably a lot higher than me. That's it. Just doing what your body lets you do. It's not a one size fits all. We've all got different strengths and weaknesses. One more. Resetting. And then hook your knees in, or stretch your legs out, or do a bit of side, whatever feels like a nice stretch for you at this point, because we're going to do a bit of hands and knees work. I know that some of you don't like being on your knees, and that's fine. So if you don't want to be on your knees, when we just sit on your bum, you can do some beetle and angel. I'll remind you in a sec while we do cat and cow. Okay, so again, to sit up, either hands under the small of your back, palms down, or scoot across to your side. I'll do the other option now just to remind you. So if you're going to sit up from your back, hands underneath you, palms facing down, squeeze your belly, push down onto your hands to curl yourself up. Give yourself a second because you might go a bit dizzy. While I'm here, I'll just remind you the alternative if you're not going to come up onto your knees. So the alternative will be a beetle and an angel. Check the shelf, don't take any ornaments out. That vase Auntie Nelly bought you last Christmas, you don't want to break it. Or do you? Stretch. That's it. That's the alternative, otherwise up onto your hands and knees. Now we've been doing this lately. Rather than just going into a full cat stretch, we've been breaking it down a little bit. So I'm going to do that now. So get your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, and start with just the tailbone moving up and down. So we're building that wave, we're building that curve a little bit at a time. Starting to feel each vertebrae start to join the move. More of your body starts to get involved. It's very easy to come straight into the neck. It's very easy just to start bobbing your head up and down before the rest of the spine has really got involved. So you want to feel that you are working your way up your body. You can always go back again if you think, oh, I moved up a bit quick. Squeezing the abdominals, bringing the hips to the ribs to curl. Sending the hips away from the ribs, stretching the belly to stretch. I know some of you find the arch in the back quite tough. So if you find that you can't really get a stretch there, it's not doing anything, come up onto your knees for that bit and have a nice stretch that way. It's up to you. Some people will do one cat stretch and then straight up. I find that a bit of a faff. So if you prefer, you can do a few cat stretches. And when you've had enough of doing them, then you can come up for your stretch that way. So it's up to you, whatever feels right for you. But the rest of you are, now hopefully you've got a full stretch in. So you're curling in, relaxing the neck in, squeezing ribs to hips, stretching the back, straightening out. Let the belly drop down. Press a little bit way through the arms to help you lift your chest, lift your tailbone. Curling back, so starting at the tailbone, building that wave up as you curl in, pushing the floor away a little bit with the arms, so you're not hanging into those shoulders, and stretch. One more of these, really feel that spine stretching. Do your alternatives if you find that you're not getting anything out of this move. and then rest. Now this could be your rest, just staying on your hands and knees. Or some of you I know like child's pose, so if you want to sit. Child's pose does not mean your head has to be on the floor. You can be not really high for child's pose to stretch out the back and the legs. You haven't got to have your head down on the floor. How low your head goes depends on how you're feeling. You can have your knees apart, so you're not putting too much pressure, or those who like it can have the knees together. But you haven't got to have your head on the floor. Cool. Then we've got our knee hovers. How are we doing for time? That'll be fine. Then we've got our knee hovers. Now knee hovers is to strengthen the arms, the shoulders, the torso. It's a tough move. You're all grown usually at this point. You can be down on your elbows. The only thing I'd say with the elbows is mind you don't punch your shoulders up round your ears. You've still got to push down even if you're going to be on your forearms rather than your hands. So we're going to push the floor away. Squeeze your belly, roll your shoulders back, send your head that way and your tailbone that way. Press down and lift your knees about an inch off the floor, holding it for about 5 seconds. So you're going to get at least one breath in here. If you prefer, you can have your toes tucked, but try not to push all your weight back on your feet because this is supposed to build your upper body strength. So you push and lift, hold it, breathe. It's a tough move, this one. We're not going to do too many, but we're going to do enough that we're going to get strength in the shoulders. Remember, forearms if you prefer, pushing down on the arm. Resting when you need to. One more. Hopefully everything's starting to shake now. And rest. Good. Sitting back. Or sitting on your side bottom if you prefer for a second. Always makes me smile. Okay. When you're ready, we're going to do our 3/4 plank. Now, 3/4 plank, again, I need you to be careful of your posture because I'm not there to correct you and I don't want you to hurt yourself. So those of you who find that you're a bit more flexible, there's a tendency to drop here and hang. All I'm doing is hanging. Those bendy ones here, you could probably stay here all day. If you're not so bendy, then it's not a great position to be in. So I need you to bring your hands further forward. I need to squeeze your belly, and as your weight starts to come forward onto your hands, you push the floor away with your arms. You squeeze your belly and you squeeze your butt. You keep yourself lifted away from that floor. Legs are working, shoulders are working. You hold it for a breath or two. You push back up onto the knees. You can sit back if it suits you. Hip replacements, please listen. Don't go further than that replacement wants you to go. Stretching out the shoulders, lowering the chest slightly if you want to. Come back up, and as your weight starts to come forward, push the floor away with your arms. Squeeze your bum. Not too low. If you are feeling this in your lower back, lift your hips slightly. Hold it for a breath or two. From your rib cage, belly's tight. Back onto the knees, sitting back, sliding the hands further forward if you want to get that stretch. And forward. So feel that weight go into your arms, feel the arms push the floor away, keep your chest lifted, don't drop. We're going to do your back stretch in a second so you won't miss out. And back. If you want to add another one of those on, feel free. But when you're ready, you're going to lie yourself down on the floor and we're going to stretch that one out. Now, we're going to do our back stretch. Start with your hands quite a long way in front. I'll come down a bit. You know, I might have disappeared off the mat there, I don't know, off the picture. So start with your arms a little bit further forward so that it's not too much of a stretch to start. So you're lifting yourself up. And then you can move your hands closer in, bit at a time. Activate your leg muscles a little bit, squeeze your bum a little bit, slide your shoulders down your back. So you're finding the position that allows you to enjoy a nice stretch. I don't want you to feel like you're pushing yourself away from the floor, lifting up. And this is going to stretch the front abdominal muscles. Back is active, so you feel the muscles in your back working. Good. Finding that position that's right for you. Might not have your elbows straight, they might still have a slight bend, it doesn't matter. You might have stayed all the way here. That might be your stretch. That's fine. You can always just come and rest on your elbows if you want to and read your book. 100 different positions to read your book. You can stay here and read your book a bit if you want, so it doesn't matter. Just to feel that stretch in your back. I'm going to do one more. I've been doing a lot of gardening the last few days with the weather being so nice, then this is going to feel like a good stretch. Check your shoulders are not round your ears. And if you breathe deep, you'll feel your belly expand. Give it a good stretch. And then you're going to come back up onto your hands and knees. You can come up from here or roll onto your side if you prefer. Up onto your hands and knees. And you can just move yourself around a bit. Loosen it all up a bit. And we're going to finish with a bit of standing up work. So if you want to walk yourself over to a bit of furniture and help yourself up, you can. Or 1 foot at a time, come up that way. Or both feet. Remember, especially if you're on your own, I don't want anybody going dizzy. So push yourself onto your feet. Take your time coming up. Stack the spine from tailbone up to crown. Once you're up, just move your heels a little bit. Pedal your feet so you're not going to suddenly go dizzy. And roll the shoulders back. Once you're happy that your blood pressure's high enough, you're not going to go dizzy. Have your feet about hip distance apart, roll the shoulders back and stand straight. And we're just going to work this posture for a second. So you're just going to stand still. Lengthen through the top of your head, through your tailbone, have your weight level on your feet, your arms down by your side and your chest lightly lifted. I don't need to walk around Sergeant Major style, but equally not down here. So find that midpoint for you and breathe. And then you're just going to rock on your feet. Now again, don't want anybody going a perler on the floor, so if you want to just do 1 foot at a time, you can. Or you can do both together. It doesn't have to be a big rock. Now, if you're doing this on carpet, you're going to feel the difference. It's going to be a lot more difficult to stabilise yourself on softer flooring. So just bring the work down a little bit. Just rocking your feet. If you're on a harder surface, you might find that you're okay to lift a little bit higher on those feet. Reach your head for the ceiling, zip the centre. Start to come down a little bit slower if you can, so come up as high as your ankles will let you, or your toes will let you, and slowly down. Just working through the lower leg muscles. Your heels will want to drop out, mine always do, so you've got to try and keep the heels level with the back of your knee. You're doing this one leg at a time if you prefer, or holding onto a shelf. Don't hold on to anybody else, they might look stable but you never know till you try, so find something that definitely is stable to hang on to. She says. And then a little bit of side to side, so get your feet comfortable distance, might be wider than you've just had them, because you're going to let your weight go from side to side, and again, you're going to start not actually lifting the foot, you're just letting your weight go to the side. And what I don't want you to do is drop. So the gap between your rib and your hip as you go over stays lengthened. And then you can challenge it if you want to, so you go over to one side, spread your toes, lengthen through the top of your head and lift the toe. She says falling over. And same on the other side. So take your weight over, lengthen through your head, squeeze the centre, clench the bum on the side that's going to support you and stretch out. You'll be better one side than the other. And if you want to challenge it further, come over, lift the foot, raise the arms. It's just sending more weight this way, so you're having to balance more. Keep reaching through your head, spreading your toes, squeezing your bum. Whoops, on the light shade. One more. and back down. Good. And the toes, we had to do the toes. I put these socks on special. So wriggle your toes. Just let them wriggle about. Imagine them in some nice warm water. Pick them up, put them down. You've got plenty of time to do your toe work. I'm expecting super flexible feet when we get back. Pick them up and just move the big toe about a bit, up and down with the big toe. And the little toe. And the big toe and the little toe together. If you're new to my classes, yes, we do toe work. You can have a competition in your house now, so you can do back toes. Get the big toe and the little toe down and whittle the middle three about. There is a point to this. This is working all the muscles in your toes and your feet and the arches in your feet, and it's a big part of your balance. Okay. And then if you just rock on your feet, it might feel a little bit easier. And we're going to finish with a couple of squats, monkey swings really. So bring your arms out in front, get your feet wide enough apart, sit back on your chair and bring your arms back. Keep your chest lifted, rise up from your chair, bring your arms up. If you want to, you can do a back bend if it suits you. Release your neck if you want to. Bring your arms forward. Now sit down, sit back and down. Reach back with the arms and drive up. Once more, sit in those hips back and down. Weight is more in your heels than your toes. Drive up. Keep your arms lifted. Reach through your head. Bring your arms down by your side. Roll your shoulders. Lift your chest. And we've done. I hope that works. Let me know. You've all got my WhatsApp or my email or my mobile number or anything. Let me know how it goes, and I will see you soon. Keep safe. Bye bye.